Hey everyone, and welcome back to the fourth episode of Better Plays Ahead, where we try to predict the future in order to make you money on sports. Like the Sports Almanac and Back to the Future too, except we're not evil like Biff Tannen. So I'm your host, Matt Williams, joining you as always, and on my other side is Mr. Frank Ammirante. Are you ready for NFL Week 5?
Oh, I'm so ready. I'm still upset about that Blue Jays loss, taking Jose Barrios out in the third inning. I mean, what are they doing? So I'm ready to just forget baseball right now and jump into football. Like, that was a joke.
We're not going to back away from baseball too much. So on today's show, everybody, we are going to be going over the weekend slate, NFL Week 5, as that'll be the main portion of the show, and give out our best bets and props. Be sure to stick around to the end, though, because we're going to be giving our picks for Thursday Night Football as usual, including our world-famous Thursday Night Parlay. It's very famous. And also, this show is all about sports betting. We happen to be in the heart of NFL season here at the very beginning, but this is not just NFL. So we're going to be taking some time after the Week 5 NFL slate, and we're going to give our predictions and best for the MLB divisional round playoffs and the MLB postseason. So stick around for that as well. So without further ado, we're going to get right into the show, talk about NFL Week 5. So let's get right into the chalkboard. All right, so this is the part of the show where we kind of go over some of the more obvious picks, at least in our mind, that the public has been betting on. But my pick to start us off is maybe not necessarily chalk because the line has moved maybe the opposite way that me and Frank had thought it would, and that is the Chiefs -4 at the Vikings. I grabbed this when it was -3.5, and it's actually moved up a little bit. So, and I thought it would be moving a little further. But anyway, they're at the Vikings, who are the 31st ranked pass rush in the NFL. That is not what you want when you're facing Patrick Mahomes. You don't want to give him as much time as humanly possible. So yeah, I expect Minnesota to put up points. Minnesota's not exactly like the world-class defense, but they're pretty one-dimensional because you're not getting much out of Alexander Mattison in the backfield. You're not really getting much out of Cam Akers when he comes in, I assume. So that makes it a little easier for the Chiefs offense to take care of him. But we absolutely know that the Chiefs are going to put points on the board, and they're going to be able to slow down these Vikings a little bit, even on the road. So yeah, -4. Absolutely love that. Smash that to death. Frank, any change of opinion there? And I know you have a play of your own.
No, I'm with you on that one. Respectfully, I think if you're taking Minnesota here, you're overthinking it a little bit. And, I know NFL teams, any given Sunday, anyone can lose. But this Chiefs team, the defense looks improved. They had a little letdown last week against the Jets in their close win. But I don't think the Vikings could hang with them. I don't think they could slow down Mahomes enough to cover the spread. I know, we saw last year, did they lose that game against the Colts or was it right down to the wire? Something like that. I saw someone compare this spot against the Vikings similar to last year against the Colts on the road where Kansas City, I believe they did lose. But come on, I don't know. I can't really get behind Minnesota here. Their defense isn't good enough to slow down this high octane offense.
I mean, yeah, I would assume the line not moving that much, and I would assume this has more have to do with the Jets than it does the Vikings. When you think, because I don't even know if anyone's necessarily backing the Vikings. Maybe are they fading the Chiefs here because of the performance versus the Jets? That's got to be my assumption here. Either way, I think massive mistake. Put the money on the Chiefs. Free money, which is a terrible thing to say in betting. Nothing's free, but yeah, you should bet on the Chiefs. Frank, what is your chalk play for the week?
All right, so I'm rolling with the San Francisco 49ers once again. I got it at -3.5. It's -4 right now in some spots. I just think, this is the best team in the NFL. They still haven't lost a game with Brock Purdy under center. Their only loss was when he was injured and had to leave the game, or they couldn't even throw the ball in the playoffs against the Eagles. So until he does lose a game, that is, I'm going to keep backing the Niners. I know the Cowboys are an elite team in their own right, but I think they're going to really feel the loss of Trayvon Diggs, the cornerback, this week. You could see Brandon Ayuk get loose downfield. I think that will Kyle Shanahan and this 49ers offense will exploit that. And I talked about this last week when I took the 49ers -14 against the Cardinals. They're just so dominant at home with Brock Purdy under center. They've won 7 of 8 games by 14 or more. Against the Cowboys was the only game where they didn't do so. That was in the playoffs where they won, I believe, by 6. But still, we only need them to win by 4 in this game. It feels like the line is baking in too much of, the Cowboys are going to avenge last year's playoff loss. I really don't see it. I'm going to go San Fran here. I think they win this one by a touchdown. Should be a great Sunday nighter. But until the 49ers show some, cracks in their armor, I got to roll with them.
Yeah, I mean, especially at home. I'm really surprised this line isn't higher at home because, like you said, the 49ers have been absolutely rolling. They're dominant at home. The Cowboys have been up and down. They lost Trayvon Diggs. We know that their defense is still going to be near the top of the league, but not in maybe the elite echelon we thought. I'm very interested to see how the offense performs here. We'll probably get a much better idea because they've been up and down. They put 30 up on the Jets. Again, a lot of that had to do with the defense. Then they struggled versus the Cardinals, and then they kind of took care of business versus the Patriots, who are not doing too well. So yeah, I do agree with you though. 49ers are definitely the way to go there. So those are our chalk plays for the week. Now we're going to get into a play that maybe some people are looking to hop on that we think is an absolute mistake. So let's see what this week we think is a trap. Right now we're going to head to the Motor City, which is where Frank believes this week's trap is. Frank, what is your play?
Well, look, this is a game that I want to avoid, and that means avoiding Detroit on the spread -10, or even avoiding them if you're in a Survivor League. I'm just a little bit worried. I don't really trust them with such a large number, even against Carolina. I know Bryce Young is really struggling. That offense hasn't been good, but Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown missed practice today while he expects to play. What does that look like exactly? He could be limited. He may not have his full workload. And without Amon-Ra St. Brown, I know Jamison Williams is back, but again, this is his first game back in a while. He probably won't have a full slate of snaps. I don't know. Something about this game feels iffy. I think Carolina, even though they've struggled, they do have some pieces on defense. I could see them keeping this game close, and I'm just staying away. If you're in a Survivor League, take Miami over the Giants. Don't overthink it. And as far as the spread, I'm just not touching Detroit -10 in this one. Maybe it's me being a little bit hesitant with the Lions.
So it's not just the spread. You don't like the Lions even in Survivor Leagues.
Well, I would take them. It's just they're not my top choice. I would take Miami. I just feel something off of this game. Call it a gut feeling. It's just we've seen Carolina, in the past, say last year against, I believe, the Ravens. They kept it close all game. They made you sweat. I could see them doing that in this one, especially with a St. Brown that's not fully healthy. Maybe it's just me that the Lions haven't been, they've been a perennial, one of the worst teams in the league, and now they're good. I know that's a bad reason to do it. I just feel uncomfortable -10 with them against Carolina. Something's off of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I could get with you. 10 points is a lot. I don't like to take that for almost any team, only the super elite. And even though I believe in the Lions, especially after they destroyed my Packers a few days ago on Thursday Night Football. But yeah, absolutely. I think 10 points is way too much there. So that is our trap play of the week. But right now we're going to move in right before we get to the main slate, a little bit of pearl of wisdom in today's teachable moment. And today's teachable moment is brought to you by me. Anytime touchdown wagers, man. I don't get them. I don't understand. I know they're fun. I know you love making them. Everyone loves making them. I make them from time to time. But what is the fascination with these across the industry? Is it just because their touchdowns are fun and people want to bet on them? I get that they're fun. But from a statistical standpoint, they're a terrible investment. At least a majority of the time. Sometimes, if someone, maybe a book doesn't really change the odds fast enough if someone's injured, you can really hop on and get a really good price. There's a time and a place. But as far as betting on stars, like starting running backs and number one wide receivers, you're better off stringing together some low bar props and a same game parlay, and you can get the same price. In fact, you can almost always bet low bars in a same game parlay and you get a much better price with a much better chance of winning. An example, let's just say you like the Bills this weekend. I love the Bills this weekend, and you want to bet on a Gabriel Davis anytime touchdown. Odds are 130 to plus 130 plus one, well, plus 130 plus 140 right now. Instead, bet Buffalo to cover and Davis to only get 25 yards. What's more likely, Davis reaches the end zone or Buffalo wins by 5 and he gets 25 yards in? same odds, plus 130, plus 140 now. If you put him in, you can even swap in Stephon Diggs for like 50 yards, and you can get that for the same price, 135. That is a much better deal. So yeah, rather than like, I mean, if you're doing it for fun, fine, that is what it is. But if you're here to make money and consistently like kind of build a bankroll, maybe get some money for some Christmas presents, buy your beers at night, you want to make sure you're winning these bets. Betting's not just about like throwing out random things at a high price. You want to make sure you're actually cashing the thing. So yeah, take your time, go away from these any touchdown wagers and try to go something with a much better chance of hitting. Any disagreements there, Frank? Because I mean, I know these things are popular.
No, I get what you're saying. I definitely will add, especially I don't like taking anytime touchdowns if it's like so heavily juiced. Here's a good example. David Montgomery this week. I really like him at home against Carolina. I know I just spoke about the Lions, how that game worries me a bit, but from a running game standpoint for Detroit, I really like it. Carolina is allowing 4.94 yards per carry. Okay. His rushing yards prop is like 70 yards. And it's minus 110 on the over. His anytime touchdown is minus 145. If you like Montgomery in this game, why not just take his rushing yards? You don't have to lay that juice, minus 145. It's not like 70 or more rushing yards, is such a high bar. Like he's likely to clear it, especially against the, really vulnerable run defense. So I get what you're saying, like laying juice on touchdown props that I would definitely stay away from. I just prefer taking yardage. It's easier to project. Although I do have a touchdown props article at the game day where I just, pick and choose. I only pick, I've only put half a unit on the any time, and I put maybe like 0.02 on like first touchdown and that. So it just reflects how you should risk less on this type of prop, just because touchdown scoring is a little harder to predict than yardage and receptions and things of that nature.
And if you want to do something fun, there's great things you can do like ladders, which you don't know what we're talking about. We'll have one for you later in the show. But that's our teachable moment for the day. So now we're going to get into the main part of the show for at least NFL Week 5, and we're going to get into the main picks that me and Frank love. Let's get right to the betting board. And my first play of the day here is the Jaguars at Bills. At Bills. It's in London. Jaguars are kind of the home team because one, they play there a lot. That's like almost the home team of London. And they were playing there last week. So the Bills, not only are they not getting a home game here, they're kind of in a road game. I got this at minus 4.5. It's now minus 5.5. Don't care. That's perfectly fine with me. I'll take that as well. We mentioned this in the early lines to make sure that you jumped on before they moved. Again, I know the Jaguars are very comfortable, but other than Josh Allen's poor showing in week 1 and poor decision-making, the Bills look like the best team, at least in the AFC. Maybe all of football, but the 49ers are right there with them. Jacksonville's the 29th ranked pass rush, which should allow Josh Allen to avoid some of those mistakes that he has been making, or at least early in the season. Buffalo's going to carve up this Jaguar secondary. Trevor Lawrence on the other side, he's looked inconsistent. Bills defenses look solid thus far, even with lots of key injuries. So I know there's a lot of sharp minds kind of pushing the Jags. They're comfortable there. The Bills had to fly overseas, and all that makes sense here. But I'm not buying any of that. I think that the Bills win this game by at least a touchdown. The Jaguars have not looked good, and I'm not sure why we think this is the week they're going to turn it around with a red-hot Buffalo Bills team. It's not like they're traveling to Jupiter. They're just going to London.
Yeah, exactly. I don't buy too much into the travel narrative. That sounds like a meme I can make with Stifler on Twitter. For those who don't know, I put dumb betting narratives with a Stifler pick as if he's saying it. That's Stifler from American Pie. This sounds like something he would do. Oh, the Bills are traveling to London. The Jags have been there for 2 weeks. The Bills are going to have a letdown after the blowout against the Dolphins. Well, these are all narratives. Like, the fact is, Josh Allen is playing at an MVP level. The Jaguars' offense is kind of out of sync. Like, Calvin Ridley hasn't gotten going since that big game against Indy in week 1. Yeah, this was one of my favorites too. So I'm all aboard this with you.
Yeah, it's funny. I looked at it, and I when it first came out, I'm like, at Buffalo, and I saw the line, and I smashed it because I forgot that they're making Jacksonville play in London 2 weeks in a row. I forgot this was London, but then I didn't. I just don't care. I just don't care. So yeah, that's my first play of the week. Jag at Bills minus 5.5. Absolutely. Frank, you're gonna talk about my Green Bay Packers here taking on the evil Devontae Adams, the traitor, and the Raiders here.
Yeah. So I wrote this article up in my Monday Night Football article at thegameday.com. You could be sure to check that out. I like the over 44.5 in Green Bay and Vegas. And just because the Raiders defense really isn't good, they rank towards the bottom in both pass and rush defense. Green Bay, Christian Watson, I know him and Aaron Jones were back last week, but they were on a reduced role, a bit of a pitch count, especially late in the fourth quarter. They didn't play Christian Watson at all as the game got out of hand. Well, now you got to think another week has passed. They have a longer rest because they played on Thursday. You think Watson and Jones will probably have a regular workload. So it's all hands on deck in terms of the weapons for Green Bay, and it's a good matchup against Vegas. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo missed last week with a concussion. I'm assuming that he's going to play. That's why I jumped on this. So I jumped on this early on Monday. It's still 44.5. I feel like once it's confirmed that he's playing, maybe it gets to 45.5. And I'm confident that he will, because each time we've seen a player miss a game with a concussion, it's been one game. Jacoby Myers is an example. Jalen Waddle is another example. I feel like Jimmy G will be back for this game. And I know Jair Alexander will as well, but I feel like Green Bay will put up points and force the Raiders into a more passing game, which bodes well for the over. I know Devontae Adams missed practice today, but I feel like he's going to do whatever he can to play. It's against his former team, your Packers. Let's go with the over. Not really even a high bar at 44.5 points.
It's a tricky game from a prop bet standpoint, even for an over. I mean, on the Raiders side, it's easy. Devontae Adams is going to get his points no matter what, but he's always set at a very high bar. We talked about last week. They funnel their offense, at least passing wise, through two players, Devontae and Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is usually a good bet to hit his over. We know the Packers can't really stop the run. Josh Jacobs is probably a good bet. On the Packers side, I don't know what to do because we don't know what their offense is going to look like. It's totally healthy and there's no pitch counts. Aaron Jones seemed like he'd be a great play if we knew exactly the kind of workload, especially with A.J. Dillon looking like just horrible trash. So I'm going to back away from Jones this week. Christian Watson looks like he could be a sneaky play, but again, they look like they're spreading the ball around to quite a few players. So, I mean, whether that be Dobbs or any of the other rookies, it's difficult to know what the Green Bay is going to do. So even though I agree with you, the over here, it's hard to do anything on the Green Bay side from a prop betting standpoint. One prop bet I do like in another game, we already talked about the Chiefs at Minnesota, Rashee Rice. This is not out yet, but I'm confident I'm going to love it no matter what. Rashee Rice, we're probably looking at his receptions and not his yards necessarily. But we'll have to see what those lines are. Make sure you follow me and Frank on Twitter. Or X, we'll cite those at the end of the show, and we'll make sure we update this when the line is out. But the Vikings allow NFL worst 84.4 completion percentage to slot receivers. As mentioned during the chalkboard segment, the Vikings don't have much of a pass rush. So, that should allow Mahomes to have a lot more time to throw, which, could allow for some downfield throws. But I think that since they allow the slot receivers to get open, that'll be a lot of targets for Rashee Rice. Now you may be thinking to yourself, this means it's a big Travis Kelce game. Sure, it probably will be. He's probably going to have a massive game. But man, betting on Travis Kelce can be expensive, and the juice can be really high. So yeah, you can check in on those. But Rashee Rice, he's just starting to come out of it. He's just starting to kind of build some momentum. So I think that when the lines do come out for this game, it's probably going to be set at a very reasonable number. If you can get this, his reception is going to be like 2.5, 3.5. It's going to be low, and that's something I definitely want to take the over on. And if the yards are something, in the 30s or something, I think I would want to take the over there too, which I think they could be even in a high scoring game. So Rashee Rice, no line yet, but I am very confident when they do drop, I'm going to be very interested in him, because those are the kind of bets you want to look for. Not necessarily the smash players like Kelce, but these ones that are in these great, matchups that you think you maybe get an easy over on.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I took Rashee Rice last week against the Jets over on receiving yards, and it was around 27.5. And what's good about this bet, I can't imagine it being too much higher than 27.5, because Rice still does not have a full slate of route participation. He's not out there all the time, but if you look at his route percentage, it's increasing each week. And a key metric to look at is his targets per route run. So he's not on the field a lot, but when he is, he's earning targets at a high rate. And that bodes well for his production in the near future, because if he's getting more routes and he's still showing that ability to earn targets, earn Mahomes' trust, that means more targets for him. And then that makes it easier for him to eclipse the prop you're going to have, which I can't see the catches being more than 2.5. And that's such a low bar. He could do that, on 1 or 2 drives if, he's cooking. So I like this as well, especially in a shootout.
Yeah, shootout. More opportunities to pass, more routes, more opportunities to be targeted. Frank, your next play here, you like a parlay, which we love some parlays. What do you like here?
Yeah, so I wrote this up in the game day as well, my weekly parlay articles, and I see we have a question in the chat about the Texans, and we waited because it's perfect timing. The Texans are in my parlay to win outright at the Falcons, and this is just, again, like last week, I took them against Pittsburgh. The previous week, I took them against Jacksonville. Why? I'm a big believer in C.J. Stroud. He looks phenomenal.
I'm going to buy a C.J. Stroud jersey. I love this guy. I do.
Yeah,
see that thing? You see that thing about him buying like dinner? He like gets a private chef.
Stud. What a stud. What a leader.
He's awesome.
He's got a nice receiving core now. Nico Collins, completely balling out. Tank Dell looks like a really good rookie. The new play caller who came from San Fran, Bobby Slowick, is doing a great job with the offense. And you look at the Falcons, Desmond Ridder, bar none, is one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL, if not the worst right now. He needs to be benched for Taylor Heineke. Arthur Smith gave him a vote of confidence. So we're going to assume Ridder's going to finish this game. Given that significant advantage at the most important position in C.J. Stroud over Desmond Ridder, given the fact Houston's underdog, it's not like Atlanta's that great anyways. I got to go Houston here. Keep rolling with the Stroud train.
It's one thing before you get to your second thing. Everyone can see the second leg of the parlay, which is really great. I agree with you here. The Falcons, I think if they had Heineke in there, like a quality game manager, I think they could be a playoff quality
100%.
team. I think they could, but yeah, as it stands right now, I believe you. I mean, Ridder really is dragging this team down. Continue on. I know you like another team here.
Quick thing though, just before we move off this game, like as a Commanders fan, I know what Heineke is capable of. He could go. It's not like he's some stud, but he's a good backup. He could at least make the passing game functional and get the ball to Drake London more, get the ball to Kyle Pitts a little more, and they'll be more of a balanced team. This is.
You want Jonnu Smith as your number one?
This is 2023. It's not the 1970s where you run the ball every down. Like you need to pass a little bit, and Arthur Smith needs to wake up and do that. But anyways, give me the Texans. The other leg of this parlay is the Saints on the money line on the road against New England. New Orleans looked awful last week against Tampa Bay, but that was mostly because I feel like Derek Carr had no business playing in that game. He wasn't fully healthy. I believe it's his shoulder. You got to think another week off. He'll be good to go. New England's defense has been weakened by injury. Christian Gonzalez, the standout rookie corner, is out for the season with a torn labrum. That really sucks because he was balling out. They're also without Matthew Judon, one of their edge rushers. And you look at the New Orleans offense now with Alvin Kamara back. That's a pretty damn good set of playmakers with Kamara, Chris Olave, and Michael Thomas. And then you look at New England, it's just probably the most vanilla, ugly offense in the NFL. Give me New Orleans as the underdog here.
All right. And my next play here before we get into a little baseball and Thursday Night Football. Another prop bet for you. Breece Hall, New York Jets. Let's see if the New York Jets can go on a run here. Maybe Wilson doesn't look so bad. But Breece Hall over 60.5 rushing yards. I don't know if Frank's going to make fun of me here because this is a narrative play too. A little bit, but not necessarily. The Broncos have by far the worst run defense in football. That's the most important thing here. I mean, when I say by far, they are so much worse than the team above them. They're in their own tier of terrible. Now, also the Jets claim Breece Hall is going to be off his pitch count here, which who knows? Never trust those reports. I mean, it's a meme at this point, how terrible these ridiculous reports are. But 60.5 yards is a decent line, like regardless. So I'm happy to take the over on it. The thing with Breece Hall is he could grab this on his own in like 2 plays versus Denver, especially. Hall is 4th in the league in explosive run percentage among running backs with at least 20 carries. Explosive run percentage are runs that at least go for at least 15 yards or more. He's also 2nd in the league in yards after contact per attempt among running backs with at least 20 carries. So not on top of he's facing a terrible defense. He's off a pitch count. And he also publicly complained, which is not necessarily a good thing, but Greasy Wheel AJ Brown. There's like different greasy wheel things are a real deal. So he's really lined up to have a monster game, and 60.5 yards seems awfully low to me. So yeah, I'll hammer the over on Breece Hall.
Yeah, I like it. And to your point, I had Breece Hall last week against Kansas City. I think it was at 50-ish and a half. I don't remember the exact number. I was pulling my hair out because they were putting in Michael Carter. They're putting in Dalvin Cook. They were passing at a really high rate. And what happened? He still hit the over. Why? Because your point, his explosive run rate, one of the most explosive runners in the NFL. I think he had like a 30-plus yard run in that game, which pushed it over on very minimal work. And like you said, Denver's run defense is awful. Great play. I'm going to just answer one quick question in the chat that I see before I get to my pick. There's a parlay that our friend here, Marvin, has. Colts money line over the Titans. Like it. Love Anthony Richardson. Saints and Texans already got into. Bills, we already discussed how, Josh Allen's balling. They should beat the Jags. Ravens, they're playing either an injured Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky.
Or
like
healthy
that one.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, true. He's been awful. Like that one as well. The one that you could sweat the most is the Jets, but I like them as well. Denver's run defense. I mean, Denver's defense overall is just atrocious. So
I like the Jets. I mean, he's going 30 to win. He's betting 30 to win 1,100. The Jets are a big part of that. I like it. I like it. One thing I would try to do if you can, if you're betting on teams that, if you're betting on a team like the Jets and it's kind of a coin flip game in the eyes of the books, but you're only getting like a -110 or something because it's like a spread bet or something. I would look into alt lines, because if you like them and you like them to win, like a couple of weeks ago, I picked the Ravens as a -2.5 and they were an underdog. Try to get even more value out of them, because if you think the Jets are going to win, instead of just taking them at the spread or something like that, see if you can like get a little more value. And that's not just necessarily for the Jets, but that's like kind of anything. So always look for ways to like especially these bigger parlays, kind of get as much value as you can, because any little thing can trip you up here. So you might as well at least try to extract as much value as you can out of the things that you believe in. So that does it for our the chalkboard, or I'm sorry, the betting board here. And before we get into our Thursday night plays, we're going to talk a little bit of baseball because we haven't really talked about that on the show so far. Going in here, but all first round sweeps in the first round in the MLB wild card, just two games. Very very disappointing that there's no games today. But we got 4 solid matchups coming up here. So real quick, because we're running a bit long, me and Frank are going to go through who we are going to pick to win each of these. First up in the American League, you got the Twins at +135, going to Houston for game 1 at -160. As far as just the entire series, this is game 1, the whole series. I like the Astros. I know it's -160. But they're very incredibly experienced team that knows how to get through these games. The Twins are coming off an emotional high of winning their first playoff game in like multiple decades, and actually winning the series on top of it. I think they hadn't won a series since they did in literally that scene in Moneyball where they beat the Twins, where they beat the A's. That's the last time they won a playoff series. So I do think that between Verlander and they have so many veterans and they have so many quality hitters for Houston. I think that they're just too much for the Twins. I know you disagree with me, Frank.
Yeah, I disagree. The Twins look like live dogs here. They got a great starting rotation. Sonny Gray, Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, when he's on, he could be dominant. The bullpen has gotten deeper with, Louis Varland pitching out of there. They could go to Kenta Maeda. They can go to Bailey Ober, in addition to, of course, Joan Duran and Stewart and Griffin Jacks. They got a lot of arms there. And to me, their lineup is much better than what their record was 87-73. They're better than that record because they only got 50 games out of Royce Lewis, who looks like a star in the making. And he had like 15 home runs in that stretch. So I think we can't count them out because they're better than what you look at in their overall season stats. Just because a lot of their young guys that came up later are now with the team and playing well. Like even Alex Kirilloff, Matt Wallner. I think they're going to be that. Lately we've seen in baseball, these teams go on a run to the World Series, maybe not win, but they surprise. Look at the Phillies last year. Even San Diego went on a run. I think Minnesota upsets Houston here.
They'll need. I like rooting for the Twins. They'll need big performance out of Joe Ryan. We know that they have
Yeah.
good pitching, but Joe Ryan coming out of the gate, they're probably gonna have to lean on him twice. They'll need a good position there. Rangers -110 versus Orioles -110. I I mean this should be a close series. I have the Orioles here winning in 5. I feel like it's a little bit of disrespect for the Orioles for it to be a dead even. I know there's a very big opposite of the Astros, lack of experience, but Grayson Rodriguez has been amazing in the second half. Kyle Bradish, amazing in the second half. And the Rangers, I do not believe in their starting pitching. Two of their big dogs are hurt, and I think the Rays just kind of shit the bed in the first round. So I think the Orioles, I'm betting on the young guys, maybe not understanding the level, like the spotlight that they're under, and maybe trying to go through here. And I think they can get through the first round, but I think it will be close because the Rangers offense is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the other side here just because, Baltimore, I feel like the loss of Felix Bautista will be really felt, and that really hurts their bullpen. You said their rotation is good, and it is. Bradish and Rodriguez have been great. But that Texas offense looks even stronger with Evan Carter, the rookie, who looks absolutely phenomenal. And Josh Young is back healthy. This offense, this is what we saw early in the year when they had that larger lead in the AL West. Then they sort of took a dip. But Young is back, and Seager and Semien, the offense is great. And what's huge for them is Nate Eovaldi looked great against Tampa Bay. If he's back, at least they have two there. Like him and Montgomery could give them a little boost, because if Eovaldi wasn't back to form, then yeah, they'd be really thin in the rotation. So that's huge for them. I'm going to lean on Texas because of their offense mostly.
I know we disagreed there. I would say my betting advice here is to skip that series if you're putting money on it, though, because there's a lot of questions. Sit back and maybe enjoy that one, in my opinion. D-backs on the National League side, +170 versus the Dodgers at -200. -200 is not a very fun number, but I'm picking the Dodgers regardless. I don't see how the D-backs get through this. They're not going to have Zach Gallen until maybe game 3 now. Maybe he comes in for game 2, but yeah, the Dodgers don't have the pitching they used to, but that lineup is a freaking, problem. And they do have the home field advantage here in a short series. So I don't see how the D-backs overcome this. So even at a +170, I'm going to fade Arizona and take the Dodgers.
Yeah, same. The D-backs don't have the pitching to slow down that offense. It's been a good year for Arizona with their young guns, Corbin Carroll, but I think it stops here to LA. They lose.
And the last one, which I see me and Frank do agree here, but the Phillies +140 versus the Braves at -165. I would actually expect this price to change, because I think a lot of people are on the Phillies at this point, which is fine if you're grabbing this price early. The Braves are a huge favorite, though, so we'll see if it actually does move. An incredible lineup for the Atlanta Braves, but the Phillies came in playing red hot into the postseason. You saw what they just did. They have an electric home crowd. Spencer Strider is like stirring the pot, saying he hates the fans, and we know what happened to him versus the Phillies last year. So maybe they give him a hard time. So if the Phillies can maybe steal one down there, I like them. If you made me pick. If you just gave me even odds, obviously, I am picking the Braves to win this series. If you were just doing a pick 'em, I think the Braves win this series. But if you're giving me +140 on the Phillies, I think that's a great value. I loved them before the postseason. You could have gotten them at like +1,300 to win the whole thing. So yeah, the Phillies, I think, are the only team, I think, in the playoffs right now. I think they could really take down the Braves, maybe the Astros in the World Series. But Frank, I know you're with me here on Philly.
Yeah, it feels like Philly is peaking at the right time. Trey Turner had that ridiculous second half. Bryce Harper got back on track after returning from injuries, getting off to a slow start. He started to really cook in the second half. And with Wheeler and Nola pitching like they are, they could sort of compete with these Braves and sneak out a series win in a 5-game series. The Braves have Strider, but Max Fried returning from injury. Is he going to be at top form? We don't know. Outside of those two, they're a little bit more thin. I think the Phillies are equipped to give the Braves a real tough time, and I'm picking them to win as well.
All right, and those are our picks for the MLB Division Series. Get your bets in now. Should be 4 very exciting series, in my opinion. We're not going to be seeing any sweeps. Even the Diamondbacks are probably going to win a game, maybe. All right, so for everyone who stuck around to the very end, tonight's game, Thursday Night Football, between the Commanders and the Bears. It could be more exciting than you think. I don't know. I'm expecting some points on the board here. And start us off, I love a prop bet here on the Chicago side. DJ Moore over 48.5 yards. Moore has surpassed 100 yards in 2 of the last 3 games. He has 40% of the Bears' air yards this year. I mean, when they're going downhill, Fields is looking for DJ Moore. He's also the first read, 34% of Bears plays. I mean, that's tied for Tyreek Hill as far as percentage of first read on someone's team. The Commanders themselves have allowed the fourth most yards per route run to wide receivers lined up wide. And the Commanders have also allowed the most yards per reception to wide receivers lined up wide and the second highest ADOT. So we're looking at someone that, a team that likes to give up, deeper plays to wide receivers out wide. We have Fields, who's coming off a big game, who has, a reasonable matchup here. And I think 48.5 is, this is one of smash plays. I hate that term, but yeah, man, this is one of my favorite plays of the week. And regardless of being Thursday night or not, I absolutely love DJ Moore here in this spot.
Absolutely love that one as well. We've seen the Commanders get burned by A.J. Brown last week, 170 plus yards. Marvin Mims, when they played the Broncos, got loose downfield. Stephon Diggs put over 100 yards against him. I think DJ Moore, cruises past this prop.
All right, and Frank, what are you actually you like a bet on the spread here for this one?
Yeah, so I got the Bears at +7, but it's moved to +5.5. I'll still take it there, and it's really this simple. I don't trust my Commanders laying that many points. They tend to play down to their competition. We saw it in week 1 against Arizona when they were 6-point favorites. They almost lost that game at home. Sam Howell looks great, but he still, as a first-year starter, is prone to some ill-advised mistakes, some throws into tight windows that end up picked off. I know the Bears defense isn't good, but I like what their offense showed last week, even though Denver's defense isn't good. But Justin Fields, over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think, as you mentioned, he could find DJ Moore downfield and make this a pretty close game. I think Washington will win, but we may be in for a higher scoring game than expected and a close game and maybe more enjoyable than most think.
Yeah, like I said early on, I said I expected some points here. Next one is another prop bet, except this time on the Commanders side. This is not necessarily a wide receiver I expect to go off, but Curtis Samuel is listed at only over under 31.5 receiving yards. He's gone over 50 in 3 of his 4 games, and that was against the Cardinals, Bills, and Eagles. All of a sudden, we're going to back away when he's playing the Bears. What are we doing? The Bears have the 28th graded coverage in the NFL, according to PFF, and they have the 28th graded tackling. So they let you catch the ball, and then they have a hard time bringing you down. So, yeah, I think that if Curtis Samuel can reel in a couple of balls, he can probably cruise past 31.5 yards, considering, again, he's gone over 50 in 3 of 4 games he's played. So, yeah, Curtis Samuel. Give me all the Curtis Samuel in this one. Love and the last play here, you liked also on the Bears side. We're going to go right. We're getting to our parlay, which also includes this player.
Yeah, so I'm going Justin Fields over 192.5 pass yards. Goes hand in hand with the DJ Moore prop, which I bet as well. I think Fields is going to have success attacking the Commanders through the air, where they're more vulnerable, as we mentioned. And, this is such a low bar, 192.5. Dude, he threw for 300 last week. It's not like the Commanders have this great pass defense right now. I know they have the pass rushers that could slow Fields down a bit, but their run D is good, and Fields will likely have to air it out more. And we're seeing them pass it more this year. Fields is averaging around 29 pass attempts per game. Last year it was at 21. So it's clear that there's more passing volume in this offense. And Fields has gotten 200 plus passing yards in 3 of his 4 games this season. So I'm, 192.5 really is not much to ask. Let's roll with the over.
Yeah, in a game that should be a pretty decent script, they should be passing quite a bit to either come back or keep up. And that leads us into our Thursday night parlay, our world famous one. So if we can actually get the parlay up on the screen, what we have here is a ladder parlay tonight. We mentioned that early in the show, a ladder. For anyone who's unfamiliar with a ladder bet, what we are suggesting is that you take a certain prop bet at one unit as your base, and then you make incremental bets that increase the expected production. If that, that was really confusing, better yet, let me just show you what I mean here. So Frank and I both like Fields and DJ Moore tonight. So as our base play, we're going to suggest that you make a same game parlay for DJ Moore to just get 50 plus receiving yards and Fields to get the 200 plus passing yards. That's all that they have to do. And that's plus 154. So again, more 50 plus yards, Fields plus 200 plus passing yards. You can get that at 154. Put a unit on that. And then for a half a unit for plus 365, get more for 70 plus yards and Fields for plus 225. You hit that and then you're just rolling for less risk. And then for only a quarter unit at plus 1200, get DJ Moore at 100 plus yards, Justin Fields at 250 plus yards. Let's just say they do exactly what me and Frank are hoping to do. This is a high scoring game. They can eclipse both of those numbers. And all of a sudden you've hit 3 bets. And even if they don't reach those second and third tiers, you're not risking a full unit. You can still end up profiting regardless. So that is our Thursday night parlay for the night. And that kind of does it for the show. I know we went a little long here. We got to talk a little bit of baseball, but Frank, before we wrap things up here, any final notes, words of wisdoms for the viewers?
Just hit up our ladder. I think DJ Moore is going off, and just an added prop I didn't get to mention. Quick thing, David Montgomery over 70.5 rushing yards looks good against that Carolina run defense. Calvin Ridley under 4.5 catches. He's got 2, 3, and 2 in his last 3 games. Those are some additional picks. Good luck on your picks this week. Check out our betting content and fantasy content at the game day, and let's have another profitable week. We've been on fire.
All right, everyone, and thank you for listening to Better Plays Ahead. Make sure to join us on Better Plays Ahead every Thursday at 3 p.m., where we try to predict the future and make you some money on betting sports. I'm Matt Williams. You follow me on Twitter at MATTWI77IMS. Make sure to follow the Game Day NFL at the Game Day NFL on Twitter, X, on the Facebook. What am I, like 20 years old? And YouTube, the Game Day. The Game Day action on YouTube. And Frank, where they can find you on Twitter, X, and Instagram and all that.
Yeah, Ammirante, TFJ, follow me there. I'll be putting out all this goodness. And quick question here. We got, does DJ Moore get over 40? We think he smashes that. We said that earlier in the show. Check it out. Let's go. We're going to get some